Welcome to the talk. As always, a quick reminder for those who come here for join us for the first time. It's an open discussion. The topic today is, can we change? It's a bit of a provocative question. That is a question that we address quite often. Hello, Francesco. Hi, Emma. So we address this question regularly because the question of change is a question of who you are, a question of how you evolve, a question of being born with a certain personality type, and how life is changing us or not. And when I teach Savoir-Relier in my different sessions, it often appears that when you want to work on your self-awareness and know yourself better, you want to see whether your characteristics, your personality traits are always the same and constant, or if they change. And as I always say, the only person you can change is yourself. But actually yesterday in a seminar, I had a session where the question popped up of change versus evolution, and of fixed traits like you have in the MBTI, for example, when you take tests like MBTI or Insight or all those personality tests that tell you whether you are introvert or extrovert. And with my work over time, I have found that yes, there are certain aspects of our personality that are anchored in us, but life definitely changes us. And I think it's much more interesting to look at ourselves in a dynamic and very complex evolutionary way, so that it makes value for self-reflection, introspection, and work on ourselves. And by way of introduction, I wanted to say that those ideas with you so you can react and maybe share whether or not in your life you feel that you have changed significantly, or you have more or less remained the same, and how that change may have affected the way you look at life and the way you develop your relationships with others. So the floor is yours, and as always, we like to hear your stories. Philippe is with me. Camila and Camille are there too to share and answer questions if you have some. But really, the idea is to engage in a dialogue and to share your stories and your input about this question, can we change? So always a bit difficult to get started, but if anyone wants to just get started, I see the camera is on with Steve. Maybe Steve wants to talk first, but definitely the floor is yours. So please go ahead and jump in and don't be scared.
I can start, you know. So I think change is the only constant thing, and a person changes. I mean, there are various factors which affect or which brings about change in a person. One is the age factor. For example, the way I looked the situation 10 years before, I no longer look at a particular situation in the same manner. Say, for example, I used to get angry very soon. I used to lose patience very soon when I joined my first company, my first job. When things were not happening fast, or when I didn't get the responses from the person or work done from the person as expected. I used to lose my patience very soon. But with time and with experience, I think I have developed a lot of patience, and I now believe that things can be done in a better manner. Confronting or losing patience is not the key. So I think there are many factors with maturity, with experience, with change in location also. Your perspective broadens up. I mean, the way you are exposed, I mean, uh, you know, to different cultures, to different ethnicities, your thought processes, broadens up, and that definitely brings a lot of changes, not only in you as a person, but the way you think. So I think change is the only constant thing, and that happens, that you evolve as a person, not only as the habit or the characteristic, but also like I would give a very simple example. When I was young, I didn't like bitter gourd because it was bitter, but now my taste buds have also changed. So with age, things changes, your characteristic changes, the way you think also changes. So I would summarize with what I started with, that change is the only constant thing, and we should change. Otherwise, as per Charles Darwin, survival of the fittest, we need to survive, we need to adapt, and if we don't, then we would be extinct. Yeah.
Thank you, Manan. Thank you for sharing. Who wants to either react or move forward with their own story?
I think that's really, really true, actually, and it kind of reflects my sort of experience as well. Is that I've definitely changed, and I see points in my life where that change has accelerated, and I guess I kind of had the choice to kind of lean into the choice or to back away from it, and when I leant in and made the leap, looking back, I see that was an important point in my life, to grow as a person. And yeah, in terms of living in another country is definitely one example, if that's possible for people. And radically changing my career at quite late in life as well, not early on. It shows that change is possible at any age, I think. And I think I was a bit reluctant to change it when I was a younger person. And that confidence has grown over time, for sure, to be able to take the leap, and you really gain the benefit from it. But it's tough to do sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Steve. Anybody else wants to go?
I can speak about my. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Paula, just you were first. Go ahead,
Okay.
Paula.
I can speak about my experiences with change. I have come to the conclusion that changes in life happens, events happen. However, in order to evolve and change in the way and grow, you need to make a conscious change as to how you would like those changes to be impacted. Otherwise, you can move into a direction that ultimately you may not be happy with. So I think changing, it requires an awareness and conscience as to as to how you want to evolve. Otherwise, the events in life can take you in a direction, as I indicated before, that you may not be happy finding yourself there. So for me, it was a conscious decision. How do I want to evolve? How do I want to change the way I experience the world around me and surround myself with people who had more experience than me, that they were more mature at me, and to in certain way guide me towards those changes, or be there to provide their inputs and experiences. And through that, I found that I was able to make certain changes that currently I'm happy with how I have evolved up to this point.
Thank you, Paula. Prachi, you wanted to speak as well.
Yeah, I hope you can see me better now. Thanks, Paula. I think you made some really good points that, yeah, even for me, my journey has been about changing so that I can appreciate the world around me more and truly see the beauty. And for sure, people have helped me out, and now I actively seek those people because otherwise I know I can't change in the right direction, not the direction that I want to change in. So yeah, I think those points were really important, and I feel I really connect well with them. I also think it's important to let go of the expectations that people around us might change. because that actually hinders how we change and how we want to change. And that's also been my experience that constantly hankering for people around us to change is not going to cause any difference, not to us, not to them, and might make things worse. So that kind of becomes a problem when we start expecting people to change around us just because we are changing and just because we've chosen to change. And that is something I would like to work on as I proceed along with the course and of course my life.
Thank you, Prachi. Raimundo, you wanted to turn your camera on.
Yes, now I can turn my camera on. Sure, I love to participate. I was thinking while I was listening to everyone that perhaps it's not just the way that you change in within you, but the way you respond to the things that happens around you. That's really the change you have and the evolution that you were talking about earlier. And also, I would like to bring to the discussion the part of the habits of the usual way of doing things. So if I change the way I usually do things, somehow it's going to lead me to my life. So perhaps like with the Savoir-Relier approach, if I do things different with my team and usually be more careful about them and more intuitive about doing things and listening to people, and that's a more common way of me to respond to things, is going to lead to a change in my team and myself. And also it comes for the bad things. So if you become angry and you are unstable and you don't care about your mental health, that's the way you're going to change. That's what you're going to get. So that was I was thinking about while I was listening to you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for sharing. If anyone wants to jump in, I'm going to start responding a little bit with some of my experience and feedback. And
maybe I give
yes,
a little
Mark.
bit good. Yes. So
yeah.
yes. So for me, I think the change you have 3 levels. One is change awareness, then the behavior, then the core belief. So I work in different country and exposed to different culture. So for me, I know a lot, learn some different perspective. So then become sensitive and aware of different concern, different issues. So and also it changed my behavior, how I interact with the people from different culture, different background, and different team, right? So I should say awareness and the behavior, I changed it a lot. But the core belief, who I am, what I believe is a value I hold, and what I believe is right or wrong, never change. Yeah, I still, if I talk about the core value of my life, still the same. No matter I work in Asia or working in Europe, so it's still the same. So I think there is some part on the awareness and behavior I change it a lot, but for the heart belief, the core belief, I never change. Yeah.
And yes, the values, we call them drivers as well. What drives your life, the thread that keeps that direction that you head for in your life, and the choices you make. When you're doing the work that we do with Savoir-Relier, with this first exercise that is so important and valuable, the solo, or that I used to call the self-portrait, and now I call the solo. In my experience, doing this exercise on a regular basis is a very constructive way of better understanding and seeing how you evolve. And to give you an example, I've recently worked with a consulting firm where some consultants have, over time, over the course of 4 years, participated in different sessions of Savoir-Relier. And one of them had done a solo a year and a half ago, and he was doing a new seminar, so he wanted to do a new solo. And looking, he dug the old one up to look at what he wrote a year and a half ago. And when he read it, he felt, I didn't write that. This is not me. And very interestingly, looking at what he wrote and what he was about to write on similar questions, he found that there was a huge change and huge evolution on what he would say about himself in the 4 circles of relationships, you and yourself, you and other, you and a group, you and society. When you take that perspective on yourself and you do it on a regular basis, you're not only able to see those moments and changes that you have in your life, but you can also compare how you respond to different situations and different aspects of your life. So the fact that you are engaging in this type of self-reflection and keeping track of it by having these solos that are written and that are out there in your computer or somewhere on paper is a way for you to look at yourself with perspective. And it's something that's very difficult to do because we are so subjective about ourselves and sometimes so harsh on ourselves that it's very difficult to have a sense of at least a little objectivity or have this kind of looking back. And I can only encourage you to keep doing those exercises and to carry on with the solo on a regular basis. I usually say about once a year, so that you have this sense of I keep track with myself. And the other benefit of this is that by doing this self-reflection, you're able to give time to yourself, which is something as I experience more and more, people don't do. So if you set a time to yourself and set that moment where you can stop and pause and have this moment of reflection, it's a great way to look at yourself. And one of the consequences that I've seen that is probably the most valuable one is that because you're more aligned with your values, as you were saying, Mark, looking at your values, what is constant in how you move into life, it's a way of checking whether or not you are making the choices that are coherent with who you are and with the values that drive you. So I think this is a very important step. And of course, again, engaging in duos, because those duos are a moment of getting that feedback from others and that having that look from somebody else on you that helps you gain another kind of perspective and still better understand yourself and grow as a person in the relationships that you are building one after the other with people. So I think that change is we are complex human beings. We are complex. We are in constant evolution. We still have certain personality traits that are anchored and values that are anchored, but knowing over time how events, sometimes traumas or situations make us react in a certain way. If you do this constant tracking of who you are, I think you will be more likely to be not only happy, but if I would say, gain serenity. I think it was Steve that talked about wisdom, or maybe it was Manan at the beginning who talked about gaining wisdom as you grow. And I think that, again, by looking back and not feeling regrets about what you've done, being more confident as you go, I think it's a process that can definitely help you move through life and improve as you go and evolve. Sonu, I've seen you maybe move. Are you about to talk?
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. I'm a TC student and I attended your 2 seminar also, webinar. And after attending your course also, and my life is change, everything is change. And now I am passionate about change, and it allows me to constantly discover new horizons, to challenge myself and to meet new people. Happiness for me is when I perpetually search something. I finally find peace and serenity in my life, and it's like reaching the finishing line after a marathon. When you want to reach something, and like you told me 3G, and this is genuine, generous, and generative. So, like, we have to speak openly and questions ourselves and do the things what you like and listen to others. It's a listening power, and express your feelings and care about others, pay attention to others, and learn from your mistakes and act on some common goods. Like that, we learn so many things from you, Professor. And really, I appreciate, and my life is changed from your course. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you very much, Sonu, for sharing. Thank you. Anybody else wants to share moments of change or questions about change? We have Gerardo, we have Milena, and Patricia who are with us. We haven't talked.
Yeah, I had 2-3 remarks. Change is not easy. It is disruptive, and it is very difficult. And as a human being, we tend to shun away from change because that is out of our comfort zone. We don't like changes. Like, for example, I live in my hometown. I am born, brought up, and educated over there, and we have good opportunities over here because it is a manufacturing hub in India. So even though I get opportunities, international opportunities, I think that why to make such a big change, even though it would be very, very beneficial to my career. Then also that reluctance comes. So I wanted to add this remark that change is not easy. It is disruptive because it is out of your comfort zone. But the magic begins when you go out of your comfort zone. So this is what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Manan.
Yeah, I think to complete what you said, Valerie, I think the awareness part is very important, because even if we, as Mark said, we have like core values and everything, even the awareness on our values can change, can be in a different perspective. I noticed at some point in my life, the relationship I had with the value of respect has always been very strong, but I realized that respect also applied to myself, and up until that point I didn't see it like that. So at the moment, as my awareness regarding this value of respect changed, automatically changed my core value that was linked to it, and therefore bad behaviors and things like that. So yeah, awareness is very important, and it's not only on us, but also defining the values, defining what may make us who we are. Is very important for us to understand how we relate with the world around us.
Yeah, thank you, Camila.
I would like to build on that one. Yeah, I fully agree. Awareness is very important. It's the first step. But the second question is, I'm aware there is a change need. Then whether I want to make the change, whether I'm willing to change. I give the example. I worked many years in Asia. Then I moved to Europe. The working culture are different. Then in Asia, speed is fast, right? We can drive for the result. Then come here, see a lot of difference. Then say, okay, whether I want to change. Yeah, whether I say I can more process rather than the result. Sometimes I say, no, I don't want change. I think result is important. I still need to push to drive for the result. No, I will not change. Yeah, so yes, I will, but then I choose not to change.
Yeah, and it's true that with change, the 3 conditions for successful change, have to, 1, change is necessary and you understand the need for change. So you have this perception, there is a situation that leads towards change, but then you have to accept it. You have to want to make the change happen. And there it's your emotions, your sensations, and you're ready to move to even beyond your anxiety level so that it's manageable. You manage your emotions and you can facilitate the change. And then, of course, change is possible. And so you decide that you can make the change, and it's your decision and you make it happen. Now, sometimes there are changes that happen and you're not in control, right? They are imposed on you, and you, I think it's Paula who was talking about this fact that sometimes change is forced upon you, and you have to cope with it. You have to adapt. So it's you're not always in control, and it's that notion that change may happen when you are not ready for it, and you may reject it, but sometimes it's forced upon you. So how do you do? Well, the more confident you are, the more able you are to accept that you may lose something and you don't know what you are going to gain. So that level of uncertainty is very high. And as Manan was saying, that it's difficult and it's out of your comfort zone, for sure. That's why change being around us, being prepared for this, and being the most confident possible, so that you can adapt and be prepared for it, and still learn. I think the bottom line for change is that learning posture, this curiosity that we need to have constantly in our life, so that whatever happens, we're ready to embark in whatever is offered to us, and whether we seize an opportunity, whether we go with what is imposed on us. It is important that we grow and that we learn, no matter what. And what Sonu was saying about this ability to learn from mistakes, to learn from change, to learn from things that are happening to us, based on awareness and this mindset, this posture that the Savoir-Relier definitely develops in terms of working on yourself, opening to others, accepting that you may not know the answer, and have the humility and accepting that you may be vulnerable, but still willing to grow and learn. But I always talk too much. And
Yeah.
Philippe, maybe you want to say
Yeah,
something.
I just wanted to add something about picking on what Mark was saying about the different layers. And, the habit is something we can work on, and there are some techniques and tools that we can actually use to change some of the behavior and habits. But when it comes to the value or the core beliefs, as you call them, in the pyramid, then it seems that it's kind of very, very difficult to change. I think there is an element here which is about change that, as described Valerie, we want something to change, or we don't want something to change, as Mark said. But in fact, there is also an element of posture vis-a-vis change. So it's not just I want to go from A to B, but it's also our posture to change. Same approach that we would have with self-awareness. When we say we need to be more self-aware, it's not because we are targeting to know us better, but it's by looking at the way we react to things and try to understand it as better, gives us a different perspective on life, but also a different relation to others. So the fact that we want to be aware is already something that drives, the change. And if we want to accept change, by doing this, by thinking, by having this posture, the change will be seen different. We will be more accept things. We will be prepared for change, risks, uncertainties, etc. As we grow, the core beliefs tend to sort of build. So we tend to have convictions, whether they are religious, philosophical, or what, but we tend to believe that we've actually learned something. And sometimes they can be counterproductive because we say, oh, that's a block. I can actually rely on this. Now, they can be extremely positive in terms of decision-making and moving forward. They can be also being very negative because they stop us to do anything different. We say, I'm convinced of this, and therefore there is no reason for me to change. So the posture I have vis-a-vis change is also something we want to have as a perspective, as a posture, as I said, which I think is also kind of making this question more dynamic than just state from different state at different levels of awareness.
And it's what's exciting about life too, even though we are living difficult times, that there's lots of uncertainty around, and the world is really shaken these days. I think that perspective on change and that ability that we may have to constantly be willing to learn and be willing to give as well. The more you give, the more you're able to receive, and it's not giving to receive. It's not transactional, but it's again that posture that if you're open and willing, it's more likely that you will seize better angles of life than the more negative ones. So let's hope that we can keep on building that strength, common and shared strength, and those connections that we build in our exchanges and our dialogues is always something we definitely cherish with Philippe and the Savoir-Relier team. So we wish to thank you and keep encouraging you to, practice. If you've done the Savoir-Relier, keep doing it. We still have our duo times that are available if you want to meet up and do duo. Camila, you want to say something?
There's a last question from France in the chat. Do you think there is a difference between external and internal change? How does one inform the other?
That's a very profound question that would require a whole hour for discussion, which we don't have, at least. Definitely inner change and external change, to me at least, very humbly, are connected. External change will affect you internally and vice versa. So I think there is a definite connection between inner change and external change. And back to my initial statement about whether or not we have a fixed type of personality, for example, extrovert or introvert, moments in life or events in your life can definitely direct the way, or parts of you that have not maybe popped up until then become something that makes you internally change and make your surrounding different. Because I believe that any individual has an ego system, and that by the connections that we have with each other, we have an ecosystem. It's in the connections between one another. Remember the synapse, which is my metaphor for Savoir-Relier. It's not the neurons that matter, it's the connections between the neurons. And it's how you connect and how you relate to this reality around you that will help you. So for Camila, you don't find a difference? It's changed either way? Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about the question. That's why it took so long to answer. But when I try to find a difference, in the end, I can find counterexamples for not being different.
Yeah. And Francis' question is there a template that tells you how to change? I'm always very skeptical about any kind of fixed template or recipe for this or that. I think you have to find in you what are the roads and the path to find your own way to change. Of course, our strong values are always the same. Be open, be self-aware, build your self-confidence, keep growing, and that will help you face change, whatever it may be, and be stronger and more coherent and synchronized with your own values as you go over time. And Gerardo was saying, I believe that change could be driven by internal or external needs. Yes, definitely agree with that one. We're reaching the end of our short half hour. It's 7:05. I don't want PM for France. And it's much earlier for Paula in the US and much later in India. So we'll let you go to your changing lives and keep staying in touch. It was nice to see all of you. Not everybody spoke, but meet us next month. Sorry, not next year. We'll post our next topic. And very important, if you have suggestions or wishes for topics you would like to address in those moments of the talk, post them, stay in touch either on Facebook or LinkedIn or all the media that we have available for the Savoir-Relier community. Post them and we'll choose one where you feel well, not only a participant, but having initiated the talk. So we're happy.
Actually,
And
Valerie, I already have, and we can think of we can think of how do we adjust in the change with the change in the world order with the recent events which has turned out. So the world order is changing, and it because of the macroeconomic events, it is affecting everyone, leadership, political leadership, and individuals as well.
Yeah.
So that can be one topic.
Yeah, change at the macro level. Yeah, definitely affects our lives. All right. Thank you. Stay in touch. Keep chatting on Facebook and LinkedIn, and don't hesitate to interact. It's our way of being. So thank you very much for your participation. And yes, Sonu, change comes from experience. Definitely. Thank you for sharing and being with us. See you soon. Free will, Prachi. Okay, keep posting your ideas, and we'll post them. Thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Valerie.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.